In all the runaround in the Greenwitch, what was the one moment that saved them all? What is the Grey King's favorite weapon? And what is high magic? Welcome to the Mythic Mirror, a podcast for fans of myth and fantasy who want to live a magical, fulfilling life. I'm your host, Mary C. Kehoe.
And I'm your co-host, Carolina Carter.
And today we are talking about Susan Cooper's books, The Greenwitch and The Grey King. Carolina, do you want to tell us a little bit about The Greenwitch?
Yes, so in The Greenwitch, we start off with the Drew children and Will, who we remember from The Dark is Rising, traveling to Treswick because the chalice that they have found has been stolen. And
Dun, dun,
they
dun.
know that, yes, dun, 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 and that the Dark has it and they're using it and they don't know for what or for why. And so they have to
Figure it out.
Figure it out. They got to figure it out, Mary.
So these are characters that we skipped. We skipped the first book of this series.
On accident.
Yeah. We went straight for the good one. So yeah, I like the books with Will as the main character a little better than the other kids.
Yeah, well, it's because he's an old one.
Yeah, I think that's it.
And you're an old one.
No. I wish. So one of the first things that stood out to me in this book is let me ask you, because this is the answer to our first question of the episode. What is the one moment in the Greenwitch that saves them all?
Is it the perilous wish? I'm so excited because I wrote that in my notes. We didn't even talk about this before.
We talk about it. Yes. Yeah. So I thought it was, all the kids running around doing all these things. You have Will and Merriman, going to the underworld of not the underworld, but the deep, deep into the ocean to talk to Tethys, the ruler of the ocean world, and all that crazy stuff going on. And yet the one moment that in the end is the thing that saves them and gets the secret. I don't know, the key. Yeah, the secret, the key back from the Greenwitch is that perilous wish. So the women of the village create this wood woven statue of the Greenwitch, which is just like somewhat humanoid looking. It's a huge head and arms sticking out, and then the body. And it is scary to her. It's just, this huge thing in the dark as the sun's just starting to rise. The women take all night to create it. And she can feel power coming from it and is scared of the amount of power that this thing holds, and is, trying to figure out how does this thing have power? And it very much felt like an it and a force.
Old magic, older than
Right,
time.
right. Yeah. And when she goes up to make a wish, first she is scared and doesn't want to. And then, she does. And instead of continuing to be scared, instead of wishing for, their own mission and adventure or something else for herself, she wishes for the Greenwitch to be happy.
Which is considered a perilous wish because who knows what's going to make her happy? Maybe she wants to destroy the earth. Maybe that would make her happy. Maybe she wants, I have no idea. You don't know. That's right. Why. And I think that what sets the perilous wish up earlier in the book is they talk about when they get to Treswick that they don't know what shape the dark is going to take, and that they're watching and they're listening, which is much different than your usual fantasy book where you're charging off to slay the dragon. Trying to overpower your enemy. It's much different to try and listen for them. And then also there's a very feminine aspect in the sense of that Jane goes to the weaving of the Greenwitch. It's a women-only event. No outsiders. It's very rare that Jane gets to go. And there's just that softer, more empathetic side so that when the Greenwitch is created, she looks on her, and even though she is afraid, her wish is her that just bubbles up is that she wishes she could be happy. Um, the other part that I liked in that section was there's, young girls just being silly and wishing for silly things. And the woman sitting next to Jane says, "No harm comes to the foolish." And I'm processing in real time as we speak why I liked that so much. But I think it's because there are so many magic systems that you don't want to unwittingly enter into. And I think people tend to accidentally do that. They don't really understand the rituals that they're doing. And maybe it brought me comfort to know that if you don't know better, then it's not going to hurt you.
So they figure out that the dark is coming in the form of this artist. And then as the book continues, they realize that he's working on his own. He's going outside the bounds of what his masters had asked him to do. So that is good in a sense that he's not going to be able to call upon his dark lords to help him, but he's a wild card right now, and he's come in the form of an artist. So toward the end of the book, when Will and Merriman, so the two old ones, go, that's when they go to try to intercept the Green Witch and get to Tethys in the very deepest, darkest part of the ocean before the Green Witch enters her realm and is lost to them, because the Green Witch has this cipher that will help them to translate the chalice. So there's two things going on. They're trying to get the chalice back from the guy from the dark, and also this cipher. And the part that I just was started to, what, come on, is, so they've gone to Tethys and are talking to her and trying to make a deal, and then the kids are with the other old one, the sea captain, and they're keeping an eye on the artist, the bad guy, and they see him painting, and they already know that he has the chalice, and they know that he's trying to get the cipher. He knows he has a certain amount of time and he's not being watched by his masters, and like, so this is the moment where he would act, and all he's doing is sitting at the harbor painting. So they just keep watching him painting, and they're like trying to figure out why, and is it a diversion, and what's happening. But they never leave the house from, they're watching him through a spyglass and so they just keep watching him. And to me, I'm thinking, okay, he's the bad guy and he's painting. So clearly you don't want him to be painting. If he wants to do it, you don't want him to do it.
Yeah.
So, have the kids go down to the harbor with the dog and knock over the painting, do something.
Hmm.
And I know that for the story, the author needs to have that painting get done because he's using it to call the Green Witch to him. And that brings us to the culmination of the book. But
Hmm.
I think there is a way she could have had them actively try to stop him and fail. It would be more satisfying to me than them just,
Yeah.
what is he doing? Well, now it's dark
Huh,
and he's still painting. Maybe we
who
should check
knows?
this out.
I know. Why she needs it to culminate in that is because I think it shows the direct opposition of Jane's wish, where he does try to strong arm and threaten the Green Witch, and that backfires him to his death, I think.
Yeah, as soon as we got past that waiting part, I was back in, with yeah, it definitely shows so clearly he is trying to control this wild magic. And he gets warned by the Green Witch and by the old ones when they show up that this isn't going to work. You can't,
Hmm.
yes, you were able to call the Green Witch to you, but that's it. You can't force this wild magic to do anything.
Hmm.
And even though he was warned multiple times, he still pushes through and is just, yeah, absolutely trying to completely command and control something that is totally wild.
I just really liked that for this. I think it helped me understand the wild old magic more, that it was set somewhat in the ocean, because it's very much like the ocean where anyone can get in it. It might kill you. It might not. You might love it. But it doesn't. it doesn't care if you love it or hate it. It might that doesn't factor into its decision to kill you or not.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they definitely made Tethys's realm very scary. Like it, it I think there's an element of beauty to the wild magic that doesn't quite come across in this book as much, just because you're meeting Tethys in the deep where there is no compassion, which I guess is, that's her point, is that it is this completely neutral
Fearsome,
force. Yeah,
fearsome and
fearsome, and
neutral.
yeah. But then I would think that if it is completely neutral, then you would have the equal amount of, okay, you have this scary huge squid coming at you to scare you off, and you have the fish of the deep, that are just creepy in real
Mhm.
life and in the book.
Yeah, what are those ones with the
Yeah, with the light. And
Mhm.
so you have those, and you see those in the book, and I would think that wild magic would encompass all of wilderness, so you would also have those absolutely beautiful things as well. So it would have been cool to see that. I know the Green Witch is a very short book, so no room for that. And the Green Witch, because it was just created, does have the kind of mentality of a child, and is going to its mother, the Tethys, and it has this one secret. It's like a child, and yet it's a child that has been
An
around
ancient
for
child.
so long. It's an ancient child, which is, yeah, which is a little scary, because it's something that has centuries and thousands of years to build up this, not bitterness, but awareness of being used by mankind to, they just create me every year to sacrifice me. Before it would have been an animal, now it's this me in this form, and they just do it to have a good year, have fish come in, and
Mhm.
so there's that level of um antipathy. Is that the word I'm looking for?
I think this happened last episode. I don't know.
I don't know, but not
Anticipation?
it's not quite to the level of hostility, but it's very much, I don't care about you. I have this
Mm.
secret, and it is my own, and it is the one thing that makes me happy, and I could care less if it burns the world down, but
Mhm.
I'm keeping it. And because she was the one thing that broke that script. It was like what we are talking about last time about the story you tell yourself. So that is the story that this Green Witch, this being, is living out every year, and then she breaks it. She's the only one who has done something solely for the Green Witch that isn't
Mhm.
going to give anything back to her. So, because of that one moment at the end, the Green Witch gives up its secret. And I really liked how she, when as the Green Witch is disappearing and being drawn to Tethys and leaving the realm of humans, she's calling out after it. Jane's calling out saying, I'll give you something else. And so then the last scene of the book is her on the shore, and she's about to throw something, her silver bracelet, into the ocean, and Will stops her. And you think, oh no, come on, like, give the Green Witch something. And he stops her only to give her something that will survive in the water and not get tarnished, and it'll be more precious looking for the Green Witch.
Yeah, I love that part.
All right. So now, before we move on to the Grey King, it is time for our Discworld Delight. So, for last week's Discworld Delight, many people on TikTok. Did anyone guess on YouTube?
No is the short answer.
All right. Well, TikTok, you guessed correctly.
They take it.
It is the Lords and Ladies. And many of you guessed the exact moment. I was impressed. All right. I tried to be a little bit more difficult for this one. Make sure you can't see my book. All right. She eyed him carefully as he chewed his fried egg. No, that's not where I wanted. Hold on. That's not it.
Please let that be it.
Here we go. That's it. Fried egg. Go. All right. This is the quote. After a while, as she watched him crack open a sausage, he said, all right, let's try this again. You're making me laugh.
Sorry. Does it really say cracked open a sausage?
It does. It does. You got to remember, this is a Discworld sausage, an Ankh-Morpork sausage. So now I've given you a hint. After a while, as she watched him crack open a sausage, he said, do we have any books on chivalry, dear? That's it. What book is that from?
Sorry. Okay. Perfect. I don't know. No cheating, by the way.
No cheating?
I
How
have
would I
no
cheat?
idea.
Oh,
I
you're
was
talking
kind
to
of
them.
talking to
Oh, yeah,
myself.
no cheating. Can't
I
look
think
it
people
up.
know. I think people, they know that Discworld is sacred.
We are back in with the Grey King.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun.
Okay, so the Grey King, we find Will. He is a bit of a convalescent. He's been sick for a long time, and he goes to Wales to recover, to have some R&R, and he, of course, does not get any of that. Instead, he is sent to find the golden harp that will wake the sleepers and gain some ground for the light.
Yeah, so this is what the cipher on the chalice, the message on the chalice that the cipher from the Greenwitch they figured out was this message about how to, it was the kind of the prophecy of how the harp was going to be found and how to wake the sleepers. So his fever, he actually forgot what he should never ever forget, which was this, the words to this prophecy. So in the beginning, he's in Wales knowing that he's forgotten something, and slowly different things in the environment start to click and he starts to remember lines, and then the whole thing comes flooding back. All right. So I loved this book. I felt I like this one more than The Greenwitch. It's about the same size. It's a short book, but a lot happens. And I loved how it's a whole new cast of characters in Wales, and there's people who you already start to feel have this depth. I really like it when you have mortals who already know about some of this stuff, you know, that the man who works on his uncle's farm, who, you know, is working with the sheep all day and up in the hills and in the mountains of Wales, he figures out who Will is and talks to him about it and helps him. And I just love that you have these wise, good, loving characters who aren't anything other than human, and it juxtaposes so well with, in this book you meet the, you know, the neighbor of the farmer, of the uncle, is horrible, like horrible human being,
Mm-hmm.
and that gets his own horribleness gets played upon throughout this book. And so having such a good example of human goodness and human evil and how it naturally works for the light and naturally works for the dark.
Yeah, and how it seems that the light does like to use what I would quote as ordinary people, which reminded me of Lord of the Rings and Gandalf putting his faith in the hobbits, and just that the ordinary goodness of mankind to carry the torch forward, I think, is very important. And then on the flip side, the dark using I don't know, I'd call them corrupted human beings, like people who just angry, petty, awful people. It's just easy to kind of push them in a direction that's going to cause chaos.
That brings us to the question of what is the Grey King's favorite weapon. The Grey King is the dark one that Will has to face in this book, and he turns out to be one of the most powerful dark lords there is. And they don't really know a lot about him because he's always stayed in his mountain vastness in Wales, and now Will is having to go up against him and realizing how powerful he is, and this is the first solo mission for Will, so he's having to face this intense power by himself. He's facing someone whose favorite weapon is mankind's own shadow self. He's continually working through other people, and he even tries to work through Will's friend, who in the prophecy is going to help him. The young boy Bran, the Raven boy, who later you find out is not just a normal Welsh boy. You He even tries to work against, work into his mind and create this division and hatred for Will. And fortunately, Bran figures it out. But this is where it comes to, like what you were saying, of using the dark, using these corrupted minds. And it's interesting because when the Grey King talks about the neighbor, talks about the mean guy, he is speaking in such derisive language. He thinks so little of this human. He says he's not even one of us. He's just something they use because it's easy to use. But
Mhm.
whereas, the light can depend upon, without ever having to talk to, just depend upon the goodness of people. Back in the Greenwitch, Merriman doesn't tell Jane what to do, and he doesn't exactly know what's going to happen in the making of the Greenwitch, but he knows it's important, and he knows Jane is good. He knows Jane is good. So he knows that if Jane gets put into that position for whatever powerful thing that's going to happen there, she will make a difference. And he
Mhm.
trusts that.
Yeah, and I what I found hard to read about and also interesting, I think you put it as shadow self. What I noticed a lot was sort of the integration of grief and loss and how Bran handles it, how Bran's adopted father handles it, and how the neighbor handles it. The neighbor obviously has just let it become this pestilence in him that has rotted him from the inside out. Bran struggles and then ultimately, I think, integrates it into himself in a way that fortifies him. And his father is, or his adopted father, it's quite a bit sadder. I feel like he tries to wash his grief away with penance. And so it was very interesting to see those different ways of uh, grief integration represented and how it really matters how you handle that.
Yeah, I really like that. I hadn't thought about it in those terms, and that's very uh, it's an in-depth way of looking at it, and I really like that. And before we move on to another spoiler alert of why we see Bran have to deal with grief, I just want to bring up one of the powerful moments I really liked was in this moment when the neighbor is just losing it. He's waving around a gun and freaking out and just letting this rage take over him. And Will is looking at him, and he just sees the whole of him. He sees this really flawed human, but still a human. And he sees how close he is to attracting the Gray King with his letting this rage. And I like what you said of like the pestilence and the corruption, letting this inside of him take hold so strongly will attract the notice of the Great King, and then he will be used by the Great King. And Will doesn't wish that upon anyone, that fate. And so he's looking at this person who, as a reader, you're like, oh God, I hate this guy. And Will's looking at him with just compassion and just willing him to pull back before the Gray King notices him.
I think that brings me to my next point, which is that this book also faces head on the sort of moral absolutism that you find between the dark and the light. There's a character that says let's see, he says, at the center of the light is a cold white flame that doesn't, that almost like the old magic, just like doesn't care what it has to do to win, it's going to win. And he compares it to the dark, saying that at the center of the dark is a vast void of darkness and chaos, but that they are almost mirrors of each other in that they both want what they want and they're somewhat unconcerned with the lives of mortals in this epic, timeless battle. And I wanted to know your thoughts on that.
I really liked Will's answer because it wasn't so much about that the old ones don't care about each human. It was that they're in a fight to the death. They're in a fight for their very life, for the very life of all humans all the time. So they can't afford to care about the littler things of, someone's feelings in a single moment, and how he wishes he could. He says, I too wish that it would sit easier inside me to pick the person over the principle, to pick that moment of compassion for this one person in an uncomfortable moment, rather than having to push past that, even if it hurts their feelings, to, because it's, if I take my focus off of the main battle and help this one person move through this hard realization, or soften the blow of what's going on, thousands of others may suffer because I've taken my eye off of the battle.
Hmm.
And so it's like one of those things that it's true and not true, where it is this fire that is to a certain extent impersonal, but it's the impersonal good, where it's not going to do anything. It's, yes, it's going to do what it takes to win, but it's going to do what it takes to win within the bounds of light. It's not going to create chaos. It's not going to do something that is of the dark in order to create something of the light. So
Hmm.
it might be impersonal to the point of, to humans, looking cruel, but it's not going to be the corruption of the dark.
Hmm. Good answer.
Thanks. One thing I will say that I don't like that the light does, which doesn't happen in the Grey King, but it does happen in the Green Witch, is making humans forget. And the kids already know the that Merriman, and now they're getting, at least Jane is starting to think, so there's something up with Will, that they're of the light, and that means that something's different about them. So they already have some idea of the light and the dark, and then that means, he's not quite like a normal human.
Hmm.
But then when they see Will and Merriman jump off the cliff to go into the ocean to face Tethys and go through all that, the other old one makes them forget and just has them think that, Will and Merriman are searching somewhere else for the chalice. And it happens in The Dark Is Rising too. Will makes his brother Paul forget. And though I think that is easier for both the old ones and the humans, and it's more comfortable, and it allows Will to maintain a normal, brother relationship with Paul, and the kids can rest easy in their understanding of their great uncle Mary. It doesn't allow for growth. What would the struggle of having to understand that old ones exist and this battle is real and that whole thing, what would that
Hmm.
do to the person? Yes, Paul and Will's relationship as brothers would be strained as he's coping with this, that his 11-year-old brother is an ancient being.
Hmm.
But who would he become? Who and what could he become with that understanding?
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't sit right. I understand it, but it doesn't sit right.
In real life, I don't think they make him forget.
I don't know
If the
though,
light
because
is real.
sometimes do you ever have a dream and you wake up and you know it's really important and you just like you forget it so quickly and you can't help it?
Yeah, so actually that comes up later. The sea captain says something to the kids in the Greenwich saying, and we don't have to make you forget, your own minds will do it for you. So
Mm.
she has that in there. And I think that is way more, it makes a lot, it's so much more sense to me. It's that it's our own fallibility as mortals, that we
Mhm.
tend to forget something that makes us feel uncomfortable or that we don't understand, rather than
Mhm.
the light making us forget.
It makes sense to me because I have a experience in my life where someone close to me had a near death experience, and when they first recounted their experience to me, they said that they had seen an angel and that an angel had been there to help them. And then the second time, it was like less about it. And then a couple weeks later, when he was telling the story, he said, I didn't even pray when I was that sick. It didn't even cross my mind. So it was interesting to see that as like time went on, this thing that seemed so important and so real right after the fact, even weeks later, it was like didn't have any
Just
memory of it.
gone. Yeah.
Hmm.
That that is, it's a powerful point,
Hmm. The
how,
brain's a
how
weird thing.
yeah, yeah. Which brings up that they have that in the Children of Green notebooks with the adults, the otherworldly things, or this worldly things, but kind of magical beings
Hmm.
don't need to hide. They just hold still. And the adult brain turns it into, oh, I'm looking at a barn, I'm looking at a tree. So
Yeah.
fantasy tells us the
Yeah.
truth.
I think so. And then towards the end of the book, it made annoyingly so much sense to me that the thing that was ultimately stopping Will was not the Gray King. It was not the magic. It was just this annoying, angry man who's just a fanatic for chasing him down for his own made up story in his head of the wrongs that have been done to him, and that it wasn't, and that he's just in his way. And then it becomes more of a magic situation because the Gray King uses him, but that's just felt very real and very annoying to be like, you have no idea what's at stake. You're just an annoying neighbor.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with what's actually at stake.
Hmm.
When the Gray King takes him over and uses him, not because he thinks he's a powerful tool, but because it gives the Gray King a level of security that,
Hmm.
you know, uh, Will could destroy this neighbor. He doesn't want to, and he
Right.
try, and he doesn't. But
But he
but
could kill
even if
him.
he did, it wouldn't destroy the Gray King. So it
Hmm.
was more out of like a cowardly self-preservation tactic rather than, oh, this is a powerful ally. Carolina,
Yes.
why did Bran grieve, and why is it that neither one of us will probably read this book again for quite some time?
Okay. Major spoiler alert. If you're going to read this book, just stop listening now. The neighbor kills Bran's dog because he thinks that his dog is killing his sheep, and it's not. It's the
Mm-hmm.
Milgren, which are these mystical foxes that have magicked themselves to look like Bran's dog. Um, and I don't know about all of you, but if a pet or an animal dies in a book, it's usually I usually set it down and don't finish it. I usually don't ever read it again.
Yeah,
This book's good enough that I did read it
that you
again.
finished. I didn't remember anything from this book from the first time I read it, but then about a third of the way through, warning bells started going off in my mind, and I had distant memories of, I don't think the dog makes it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I skimmed over that part. I think you allowed yourself to enter into that moment in the story and really feel it, whereas I'm like, oh God, this is the moment. Skim, skim, skim. Okay, it happens. Move along. I can't go there. Which there's both ways of reading are valid.
It was almost worse later on when he is revisiting and processing his grief, and it talks about him thinking about when he was a puppy and teaching him how to herd the sheep, and I'm gonna make myself cry.
And that this dog wasn't, I mean, it would have been so tragic any dog, but the fact that this dog is part of the prophecy. He's the dog that sees the wind with the silver eyes and has helped them so much on the quest and is so smart and just is aware of every little thing, has saved them from the dark multiple times. He showed Will where the old way was and is such a character in and of himself. He's Cavill, and who is a distinct character. So yeah, that
All to
was
just get snuffed out by some idiot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the hardest. I had to put it down for a while. I was like, I'm gonna go for a walk. Throw myself in the river. I didn't.
Oh, good. Yeah. So to lighten it up a little, what else was can you tell us a little bit more about your experience of listening to this book?
Well, I use the Libby app. Shout out to the Libby app for my audiobooks. And so I only had like a day left to finish this book. And my husband wanted to go to the movies because they do $5 movie night on Tuesdays. And I cannot watch gory movies. We don't have to get into that, but I just can't do it. And so what I did is I brought my Bluetooth headphones because he didn't want to go to the movie alone. And I put them in and I put my hat on like over my eyes, and they let me bring in a cup of tea, and I just listened to the book and sipped my tea in the movie theater sitting next to him while he watched the movie.
I love that so much.
I think I'll do it again.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
That's hilarious.
It's a way to go see movies with him that he wants to see that I do not want to see. And I don't have to see him.
God, I love that. And also, one other thing, which you had started this call with, what soundbite will now be in your head forever from the first book, from The Dark is Rising?
There is a theatrical version available on Spotify that finishes every chapter with the dark is rising. The dark. I sing that a lot.
Well, speaking of listening, would you like to give us some listener feedback?
Absolutely. Sarah Kennedy 5082 says, criminally underrated book and series. Glad I found you. And C.S. Lewis said, someday you will be old enough to start reading fairy tales again.
Nice. Is that talking about The Dark is Rising?
Yes.
Cool.
Also talking about The Dark is Rising, Hawksby says, love the Dark is Rising series. It's so cozy and so harsh and so entwined with nature, Old England, Wales. Would love to hear you chat about Ursula Le Guin books. Also, where are your teas? You need warmth and hydration for such intellectual deep diving. Thank you, Hawksby. We have
Very
our
good
teas.
And what are you drinking, Carolina?
I'm having a nice Earl Grey.
Very nice.
Honey and milk. What are you having?
I am having hibiscus and rosehip with a dash of juniper that I found outside.
Really?
Yeah. The wind had torn some branches off, so I took it and steeped it in with my tea.
Dalcassian says, in regards to our Hogfather episode, thank you for this interesting conversation. I would recommend the book The Master and His Emissary by Ian McGilchrist. It is a tome of a book, but wonderful in how it elucidates the nature of the conscious mind and the inner search for balance between fact and belief. Happy holidays.
Nice. I'm excited for that. I haven't read it yet.
I am too. I put it on our future reading list.
Yay.
Speaking of our future reading list, we also have the question, will you be doing Sir Terry's Witches books? I read all his books as they came out and still do. I'm currently rereading Thief of Time. I like to have one of his books on the go while I'm reading other works. That is brilliant.
I love that. Yes, we will be doing more Terry Pratchett, and especially the witch books.
Absolutely.
Those are actually the first ones I read and are probably the ones I go back to the most.
Yes. And to bring us to our next topic, Gurgle Blurgle 7345 says, my spark of the week has been deciding that Batman Returns is a Christmas movie and that I will treat it as such henceforth. Thank you for the pod.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Which I would like to add that I agree wholeheartedly. And usually I watch Die Hard as a Christmas movie every year because it is.
It is. It is a Christmas movie.
Which brings us to our spark of the week. Mary, what was your spark of the week?
Well, my spark, it's a little odd, but it has to do with the subject of dogs. So I made my own dog food, which I've done many times before, but this is the first time I've done it since my oldest dog died. It was nice to get into it again and do something that, had been on my list, but I'd been avoiding without really thinking about it. And I was just making it normally, and then I just felt this lightness, which I hadn't expected. So it was a everyday sort of thing that just, I don't know, was a point in the process of integrating my grief. And now that I've made you cry, what is your spark of the week?
Oh, you know what? I guess I would say my spark of the week was finding the little life hack of listening to a cozy book on tape while accompanying someone I love to a movie I don't want to see. Life
I'll
hack.
have to try that.
And then it's funny because it feels very illegal, but it's not. I paid for my movie. I still want to see it.
Yeah. You paid to sit in a dark room and listen to your book.
Mm-hmm.
Sitting next to someone you love and
Yeah,
not being bothered. I love it.
that's true. It was a good excuse just to sit and listen.
Which I feel like we have to create those excuses more. I remember days like as a kid where you could just sit and listen to something or sit and read all day.
Mm-hmm.
Those days don't come around so much anymore.
Yeah. Like when I stole the 7th Harry Potter book and hid so I could read it in one day and you didn't get a turn.
Was that me? I didn't get a turn?
Yeah. You and Laura didn't get a turn because we got home and we had assigned time slots that each of us would get. And I got lucky and I got the first time slot and I hid and I didn't even come out to eat. And I read the whole thing in one day.
Oh, that's funny.
I
Well, then
suppose
I
I ought
didn't.
to say I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. Well, so then it took me, I didn't read it until later. I needed to catch up. So I read the 5th, 6th, and 7th book all right in a row. Yeah. By the end
Brutal.
I couldn't cry anymore. There's nothing left.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you for visiting with us. You can find the blog version for this episode, including links to what we've talked about at maryckehoe.com/mythic-mirror. And if you would like to dip into the world of my upcoming fantasy series, you can get a free book by signing up on my website, maryckehoe.com. If you've enjoyed your time with us, give us a rating, follow us on your podcast app, or subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are so grateful to be spiraling through the universe with all of you. It's not always easy, but no good story ever is.